Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and welcome to another ENFP male interview. Today, I get to interview Jesse. So, Jesse, welcome, man.
Hi, thank you.
Jesse, can you tell us your full type, please?
Yeah, so I'm an ISFP, so double feminine, FISE, consume, play, sleep, blast.
All right. And then, what did you think, and how did you feel when you got your results back?
Oh man, I'm still kind of processing it, to be honest. But most of it was to be expected. I was expecting FI up top, and that's what I got. So I wasn't too shocked about that. However, I was expecting SI instead of SE, so I was a little shocked about that. But not like that's not so far off that it's devastating or anything. It's just still a little. I feel like I'm having to rewind through my life and go, okay, how was this SE and not SI in all of these different instances?
So, you thought you were an INFP then? That's what you thought you were?
Yeah, but a jumper.
Oh, jumper. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, you said that you saw the FI at the top. That means that you saw the decider problems. Then you saw like the people problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I very first got into ops, it it was all so unclear to me. And my brother's actually into it too. And he and I sort of helped each other with typing each other, and he was the one who brought up the possibility that I might be a IP, and after not too much back and forth, I very easily saw, like, okay, yeah, this is where my problems are really coming from. It's that demon TE at the bottom.
Can you talk about the problems that you experienced from the demon TE at the bottom?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely more than a few, but I definitely have a tendency to think about me first, and do what I want to do. I think it's easier to just blah, blah, blah. It's easier to describe the problem as like I'm a slave to my FI. So it's like the FI is too powerful, and I can't do anything that my FI doesn't want to do, you
Right.
know? So it's like I basically had to pick a career where I would like to do what I did. And I most of every day is kind of, well, I don't want to work on this right now, but I do kind of want to work on this. And it's like I don't even have a choice there.
Yeah, the FI is the most irrational
Oh,
function.
totally. Totally. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, I like that. Let's go do that.
Yeah, I can relate. I have FI demon, but it's still the boss at the end of the day.
Totally, totally.
Yeah. Um, okay. So you saw right away that you have decider problems. What kind of decider problems do you have personally? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah, I definitely have these patterns where I tend to neglect even my friends. I tend to not call my friends, not catch up with them, especially if they're a little more long distance. If I'm in a situation where I'm seeing them a few times a week, it's not a problem because of the circumstances. But maintaining my relationships is it's exhausting to me. And I just don't think to do it enough. So there's a long list of people right now that I'm like, oh, I probably should call them. uh and then beyond that, I tend to get very, very worn out, very exhausted when it comes to juggling too many people in my life at once. And my more happy place is if I have like one person in my life who's kind of my like favorite blankie person, and they end up for the most part being like my whole tribe. It's just one person. And then of course, you know, that like that's not good for anybody, you know. And eventually it just kind of like gets weird or um falls apart, and yeah, the vibe gets messed up.
They say that when you work on your fourth function or your
Mhm.
fourth animal, that is when you feel like it's the hardest thing to do, but it's also the most rewarding. So would you say that working on your relationships feels rewarding when you do put the effort into it?
I mean, yeah, definitely. There's kind of a how do I put this? Like a it's like I know consciously that it's rewarding, but it still feels like there's something missing, you know. Like one of the problems I've always had, like that I've noticed ever since I was a little kid, is, you know, I deal with a lot of like loneliness, and that's loneliness not in the sense of like I am objectively lonely. Like I've got tons of friends, my family's awesome. I know like there shouldn't be a problem with loneliness, but I think because of the swing between the first and fourth function, I think there's this kind of like hidden loneliness that really sort of, you know, just wears me down, and it seems to sometimes get worse if I am hanging out with people. And it's just this weird like uh yeah, it's this weird feeling that doesn't make any logical sense. Being that swing down to the demon TE. um yeah, it's hard to describe. I mean, that's another problem with that demon TE, is it's hard to describe the feelings. um
You have play as a savior. Do you feel like that helps as an IP to like um engage with people? Your play though is double feminine, and
right.
it's also ST, so it's block banging or getting things done. So
Well,
it's more used
oh yeah,
for work. So do you
right.
like to collaborate on like projects and doing some kind of concrete type of work with others? Is that something that
Oh
you
yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's tons of fun. You know, I love being in a group setting. I and I really like you know, leadership positions too. So I was the president of the climbing club at California State University Northridge, and that was just tons of fun doing that project, and, you know, getting more and more people involved. um, but then, you know, like I was saying earlier, like I get these crashes of like, it seems like the more people I hang out with and like the more people I develop relationships with, it's like there's this weird other side where I just get like this dark loneliness that doesn't seem to behave logically.
Yeah. Well, it's all good, man. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
feeling like no one understands you and not really truly connecting with others is, I think it's normal for
Yeah.
all humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's weird. I think it's normal. Like it's a normal human thing.
Yeah. It's just like I say it's weird because it's like, okay, you would think that you know, connecting with people who I do have the same interests in, and like in a really deep and meaningful way, would kind of at least like ease off the pressure of that feeling, but instead it like makes it a little worse. So it's like, I don't know, it's like the wires got crossed.
I think when you hang out with people on a casual basis versus like someone that you've had like a deep, rich, long history with,
Hmm.
I think they're completely different things,
Totally.
because like one is like fun in the moment, but like you don't know what your
Right.
relationship is really like. Like you don't have that established connection.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll cover that more later on. I kind of want to go through your parts first. Let's go
Oh,
talk
sure.
about your extrovert sensing. This is your second
Uh-huh.
in your function stack. It's feminine.
Right.
So what are you doing here? Because like for the masculine extrovert sensors, they call it like they like to smash and hit things and cause like impact. But yours is feminine. So are you more like gentle when like handling things?
Yeah, yeah, I tend to be pretty gentle with my things. I tend to be really particular about my things. Um, I, uh, tend to take care of my things. Um, I mean, being a rock climber and a cyclist, it pays off to take care of my gear because then I don't have to buy it so often. But yeah, I guess I tend to be a little more gentle, although I don't necessarily feel like I shy away from being rough and smashing things on occasion.
Because your extrovert sensing is because it's extroverted. Do you feel like if you do lose something, it's not the end of the world for you? Like if you lose something, break something, it's like okay, it sucks, but okay, I'll just replace it.
um, I mean, it depends. I think that's more of a question for my FI. Was it like a really meaningful thing to me, or was it just a tool to TE use? Um, so yeah, like if it's a stuffed animal from my childhood, then it would be very upsetting for that to get destroyed. But I don't know if it's just like a piece of climbing equipment. Like it sucks that I are, but yeah, otherwise no.
So maybe if you had like a bicycle and then that bicycle kind of took you through like a lot of journey that has been like really epic, then
Yeah,
it's been through like the roughest times with you and the good times as well, then you kind of have like a little bit of a emotional attachment to it, but otherwise it's not.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I already have an emotional attachment to my bike. For sure, for sure.
And then does your equipment have a name? Because they tend to say like, oh, you guys who are deciders tend to like personify objects. So do you have like a pet nickname for your bicycle and stuff?
Not for my bike. I do for a lot of things though. I do for some of my climbing equipment. My car is Snow White. Uh, yeah, I tend to do that. I'm guilty of that. But yeah, my bike. Actually, I was thinking about it, and I was having a really hard time coming up with the name. Um, but yeah, so I just never I never decided.
Well, call it this didn't call it decider issues for nothing. Just
Right? Yeah.
all right. What about the other part of your play, which is the well, you know what? Let's cover that later on because that's more interesting. I want to save that for later. Let's cover consume next. Your consume is SEFI, so it's SF consume. This is your lead function or lead animal, sorry. How do you personally experience your SF consume? Like,
Yeah. I've always had like, in the system, the ops system, I've always had a hard time conceptualizing consume. Like it feels kind of invisible to me compared to blast or compared to sleep and play. Um, so it's hard for me to answer this question, especially since um, it's only been 3 days since I found out that I have consume at the very top. Um, but I've been kind of trying to process this, and it's like, okay, well, I consistently like to, go outside, go on adventures for the sake of me. I really like learning new skills too. For the sake of building my identity. I like that would be more play. Yeah, it's a tough question to ask. I'd say it's probably the skill building the most, and the going out and going on backpacking trips, camping, stuff like that. That seems pretty SEFI consume to me.
Right. It's in the physical world, and it's what you like. So
Exactly.
I do want to ask you about a different dimension of consume. So consume has different aspects to it. So one of them is external self-awareness. So it's kind of like you become a ghost, you come out of your body, and then you can see yourself from like a third person perspective. So that's so a lot of consume last people, for example, they do things that are, no offense to them, but kind of cringy. But like, but they're not aware of it. That's why they do it, right? Like, when you're blasting about something, and the joke with consume last is like, sometimes they're teaching you something, but they just made it up. So it's kind of like, oh, what are you doing?
Right.
But they don't even realize they're doing it because they don't have that external self-awareness. So they don't know that well, how they come across when they're making things up. Not always, of course, but like when they do.
Right.
So
Right.
so you're a little bit of the opposite. You have
Mhm.
conceived first, so you're going to be extremely aware of yourself from an external perspective. So how does that affect you, like having that awareness of like uh, how you can see yourself like from a third person perspective? You know, like
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, well, that's a cool question. Um, it, huh. I mean, it's hard to conceptualize being more self-aware than somebody else because I don't have their perspective, you know. I've only ever had my own perspective. But I don't
no,
know.
it,
I
it,
guess
it's
I
it's
I tend
not
to be,
sorry, it's not their perspective, it's your perspective of yourself from a third person.
I know. I'm just trying to say like it's like I don't it's hard to know what to say because I I guess I didn't realize that I was, looking at myself from a third person perspective more than anybody else,
Right.
But I'm thinking about it now, I guess it would make me a little more like I've always been a little more careful, and especially I guess with the last, I tend to think about what I'm gonna say before I say it. I tend to not just blurt it out, whatever pops into my head. Um, yeah, gosh, I don't even really know.
Well, I mean, even before we started the interview, the first, like one of the first things you said to me was like, "Oh, how do I look? How does I sound?" It's like you're definitely aware of how you come across, and you want to make sure it's good, it's right. So
Yeah, fair. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, I guess maybe you might be better at answering that question than me.
Well, I mean, I wanted to hear from your perspective because I mean, obviously for me, I already saw that you were doing it because like the fact that you're like, oh, how do I come
Right.
across? Like you were already
Okay.
conscious about it.
I guess my official perspective is I had no idea.
Yeah. No, it's cool.
I was completely unaware that I was self-aware. How's that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's your first animal, so you do it in such like a unconscious state that it's hard to talk about your first animal. Seriously, it's like
Right.
it's
Right.
so automatic. It's like breathing oxygen, right? It's like if
Yeah.
someone were like everyone's good at breathing oxygen, but like how do you explain to someone how to be good at it? It's like, huh? I don't.
Totally.
Yeah,
Wim Hof will tell you.
yeah, yeah. But when Wim Hof is not lead consumed though, so he can tell you.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah, yeah,
right.
that's right. That's why he can explain it. Yeah. All right, cool, man. Let's talk about your FI values. What do you personally value in life? Like what's important to you? Like, and what are your core values that you adhere to?
Honesty is a big one. I know that. Yeah, that's probably the one of the biggest, most important ones, and that one's a tricky one because it's impossible to adhere to 100% of the time, and it's like you can't you can only be honest to the best of your ability. So that's a big one. I really also value having fun, having a good time, definitely over working hard and getting things done. Yeah, that's such a broad question too, that I'm having trouble recalling. It's the same thing with the consume. It's like it's just always there. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I can, if you ask me something, I can tell you like, oh, yes or no.
Right.
But it's hard to just like I don't have a nice list for you.
Yeah. It's all good, man. It's your first function too, so it's gonna be
Exactly.
It's like people ask me about my NE as like, oh, so hard to describe. Like I do it all the time. Yeah. All right, no worries, man. Let's talk about your sleep next. Your sleep is double masculine. It's NF. So let's look at the different parts of the NF sleep and share whatever you have about it to me. The first one I want to ask you about when it comes to NF sleep is, do you have a code or mantra that you follow, like a saying, a quote, or whatever? You don't. Okay. So most
not really.
I just noticed that most people that has your function stack, whether that be ISFP, ENTJ, INTJ, or ESFP, they tend to have something that they kind of go back to. Yeah. I think even Wim Hof had something, but like every
probably.
Yeah, I had it somewhere. But like Jocko Willink is like discipline equals freedom, right?
Right.
Kamala Harris, the ENTJ, hers is like be joyful warriors, which makes sense. TE is harsh, so let's be joyful instead of like being harsh. Right. And then my girlfriend, who's an INTJ, hers is resentment over. Sorry. What's the word I'm looking for? It's discomfort over resentment. So that's her like NF mantra, and she's lead NF also.
Right.
So so do you have something that you've like read before and you're like, I like that quote, it resonates with me, it like that, this kind of like how I live my life?
Not really. I'd say the closest thing is just that I single decided a long time ago that tribe was kind of the most important thing, and that it's my relationships that are kind of the most important thing in life, and other people and what they're doing and what they need, I guess.
David Shan said in the video before that there's two kinds of DIs. They said that the one that has two introverted animal in their stack have like a king throne where you're trying to get people to come to you. And then if you have two extroverted animal, then you're more like, look at me. It's like kind of like yelling at people to like look at, like demanding people to like look at you.
Right. Yeah.
So you're the more introverted one. You have a king throne then. Would you say that for people to kind of engage with you, they kind of have to jump through hoops? Because like I don't know how good you are returning texts, calls, emails,
I'm okay. I'm not perfect at that. I tend to like if I'm really tired, I'll reply another day,
Right.
But I tend to be pretty on top of it. Email is a little harder because it's just, I don't know, just gets lost in the junk mail, I think.
Feminine sensory.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I think it's usually pretty easy to get a hold of me, and then if I've got something scheduled, I'm I'm on time. I show up. Like I'm not gonna leave anybody hanging.
Is that your savior play that is helping you out in that in that situation?
No, I think it's more my FI that I just value, being on time and the I guess the character of showing up.
I see. It's integrity then. That's important.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah, that's
I
a
see.
nice big word.
Yeah, that's probably one of the core values then is integrity. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool. We found something. All right, man. Back to the NF sleep again. So NF is correlated with purpose. You have it as a demon though, but it's not fourth, so you have access to it.
Right.
How do you see yourself and like what is your purpose in life? Like what do you think you were put on earth for? Like what do you think you're like what is your mission in life?
Oh man, these are awesome questions, dude. They're like you're consistently asking questions that like I haven't
Oh, sorry,
really
man.
processed. It's like I haven't gotten these before, so I don't have answers right off the bat. Which I like, which I like. Um, but I would have to say it feels like I was, put here just to add some positivity to the world. Good vibes.
And how do you see yourself being that source of good vibes to this world? Like,
Well, I think like, you can do that on a micro scale or you can do it on a macro scale. Like I can, you know, make someone's day a little better, or I can provide something to the world that adds something fun. So on the micro scale, like I tend to be kind of the mom friend to my friends, and if they're having a tough time, like I don't hesitate to jump in and try and te fix it, or nf figure out the meaning behind it all. But then on a larger scale, I like to write music. I like to specifically like film scores. So I'm hoping through my career that I can add, big fun music to a lot of different films, and do fun things that way.
so it sounds like you want to brighten people's day, even if they had a shitty day. Then
Yeah,
your work will kind of create like oasis in kind of
yeah,
the darkness.
yeah.
Gotcha. Um, I want to ask you about the swing between your play and your sleep. So you're energy dominant, so you
Hmm.
are going to be someone that's very aware of your energy levels.
Oh gosh.
You have
Yeah.
play above sleep, but it's a little bit interesting because even though you have play above sleep, so you're going to expend energy first before you preserve it. Your play is double feminine and your sleep is double masculine. So are you going to be very aggressive when it's time to rest? Like it's like cut, everyone go away. I need to rest now. My time. Like how?
Um, I think so. Yeah. I've been kind of processing this for the last 3 days of like, how does this work? The double feminine play above the double masculine sleep. And obviously, I thought I was sleep first. So the double masculine sleep was strong enough to fool me. Um, and yeah, when it's time to rest, I don't feel like I have a lot of other options. I burn out pretty easily, and I have to go do things I like, or I have to just chill and do nothing at all. But the play, it's kind of like I always want to do the opposite one, I think. Like when I'm sleeping, it's like, okay, well, I'm getting bored and I miss my friends. And then while I'm playing, I'm like, just want to go home and play video games. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah.
So there's kind of that back and forth of like they're always in a tug of war.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I do tend to be hyper aware of my energy levels, and I spend a lot of energy just managing my energy.
Yeah, that sounds like what you're doing. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like how you're thinking that. It's good that you're very aware of that though. Like you're aware that you're doing
Right.
this. Um,
Right.
I want to ask you another NF question. This one is a little bit different. So this is the FI and NI specifically part of it. So I want to ask you an NI question. So you're masculine NI, and it's attached to your masculine FI. So do you see your reoccurring life patterns pretty clearly? Like you see yourself like whatever you're doing, you've done before, and it's gonna have X result because of like that.
Yeah, pretty clearly. I mean, obviously I still get sort of blindsided by things, but once I like get a grip on the pattern, I can more easily predict the outcome of, the next time.
Right. It's very interesting with that double masculine animal. Like regardless of where it is on the stack, it's like it's very obvious. You cannot not see that double masculine animal.
Right, right.
Yeah. Because like I have double masculine SF sleep, but it's fourth, but I can see it because it's double masculine, right? So it's like the double
Gotcha.
masculine. It's always screaming at your face. It's like the loud animal, right? So yeah,
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 yeah. Like I said, I thought my sleep was first.
right,
So
exactly.
yeah.
Um, so because it's so loud, the notion of like finding your life purpose, is that something that is like shouting at you, or no? Is that
Hmm.
not something that
I don't think necessarily, not at least not as much as seeing the kind of recurring patterns over my life. But um, I definitely think about purpose every now and then, but it's not something that like drives me crazy or anything.
right? That makes sense. You're double observing. So
Right. Yeah. True. True. True.
let's talk about processing your emotions.
Mhm.
Whenever you have some kind of emotion, talk about like what you do to kind of go through what you've been through before and have an opinion
Right.
of what happened.
Right. Yeah. So it's definitely a sleep process thing. Um, definitely prefer to be alone if anything like comes up that I wasn't expecting. And if I am expecting it, I pretty obsessively like pre-process things. So like back in November, we had to put our cat down, and like kind of I had been expecting it for years because she was really sick for years. The vet gave her a month to live, and then she lived for 5 more years. Um, so I had plenty of time to pre-process, losing my cat. And so when the day came, it's like I was already done processing. I wasn't, bawling my eyes out. Um, and it was just easier to let go. But if something does blindside me, um, or if it's like, a tidal wave that I have a harder time seeing coming because it's that first and fourth swing, then yeah, I have to kind of like, okay, gotta go just like ride it out. Like, um, kind of like a wave. Like you can you can let the big wave hit you, or you can get on your surfboard and try and ride it to shore, and you'll be fine either way. Like, it's just like, do you want to fight the ocean or do you want to move with it?
I like your NF analogy too, the way you
Thanks.
describe that. I like how you use NF to describe your NF. Sounds good.
Yeah, I compare the FI to water a lot. I think that's the best kind of NF comparison I have is the emotions. They move like water. They're very hard to pin down, but they're always kind of there. Like
Right.
you, the my emotions, they move and change very fluidly and easily. But they're always doing something, like the ocean's always there, but the waves are always different.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true. You can't control it. It's something that you
Totally.
have to
Totally. I
get.
mean, I can definitely influence it. I can steer the ship,
Yeah.
but yeah, if there's a storm, there's a storm, and you just
Yeah.
gotta wait it out.
Right. Right. That makes sense. So you're not really the water, you're the ship on that water, and you just have to figure out how to navigate it, you know? Um,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the conscious mind is probably the ship, and the
right.
unconscious mind is the water. I'm That's probably
Sure. Yeah.
it's probably how it's working.
Let's talk about your last one, last animal. Blast, your blast last. It's having trouble teaching your known information, trouble with also speaking up. And so why don't we start with that first, and then we'll go deeper into the blast. Let's talk about you teaching your known information to the tribe and helping the tribe um, use the NT to solve a problem that they have.
Right. Yeah, so this was kind of a surprise for me. I thought I was Savior Blast, and looking through my life, didn't notice a void there. So, being of course, going back and watching my videos, it's like, okay, I can see the blast lastisms. I can see what I'm doing in the video, but just looking over my life, it's like, well, I've been in tons of leadership roles, which maybe is play, but I've been in tons of leadership roles. I often teach people climbing. I've taught, dozens of people how to climb. And that tends to be, yeah, a little more ST. So maybe it's the play, like making up for the blast again. But I, yeah, I was just kind of surprised by that one, that I might be blast last. It it's still hard for me to see it on a daily basis and see any problems. Like I can see that I'm having a hard time saying what I want to say and structuring my thoughts, but I'm having a harder time seeing where those recurring tidal waves of that last animal are, because I feel like I, for the most part, like put myself out there and am teaching and supporting others, but I don't know, I guess maybe not. It's definitely something I need to reevaluate. um yeah.
So it sounds like you are doing play from your description. Um, you have Savior Play, which uh, helps a lot. Like you can do a lot of things in Blast that you can do in play instead and get away with it. um,
Right.
that's what I'm
Right.
seeing. And then if you're teaching rock climbing, that's very physical. So yeah, like you said, it's ST, right? It's like, you know. Um, but have you ever taught in so Blast is a one-way street. It's not like back and forth. If you're teaching someone how to set up their rock climbing gear, then they're gonna ask you questions, they're gonna answer it, and it's gonna go back and forth. Like, do you understand? Blah blah. But like if you're blasting, it's more like you doing a lecture, and it's like a one-way street. It's like
Right.
I'm just teaching you what I know, and it's abstract, it has nothing to do with physical stuff. It's like like be positive or have gratitude, or like for Jocko Willink, I was like have discipline. Discipline equals freedom, right? So
Right.
so like if you read a lot of books too, they're like usually very anti. Like I don't know if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. He's like an INTJ, right?
I know of it, but I haven't read it.
Right. I mean, that's a good example of like what NT Blast is though. Like he'll show you like a quadrant of like how you should allocate your money, and then and then
Right.
and then it's like very anti because it's not really concrete. It's abstract.
Right. Right.
But you can shove the SE into the NI and it could work. You know. So so like, have you done anything like that before, where you like kind of constructed your own abstract system or concept and then you taught it to other people?
No, not really. I mean, I would say the closest thing is leaning towards that ST play. But no, yeah, abstract concepts. That's that's a void there that I have.
Yeah, well, maybe it's something that will come out when you're like much older, because like maybe you don't need it right now, so there's no point of like learning it because there's no utility. I don't know. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. I haven't even thought about that.
yeah,
I've thought about the blast last. I've thought about the demon N and the demon T, but not like all those parts together.
right. um, you have T at the bottom, and a while back, Dave and Chan showed an interview of like what like an INTP versus like an ISFP is like, and like how do they how do they want to connect with people? So the INTP was the Forrest Gump guy. What's his name again? I always forget. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and for him, it's
Are you
connect.
talking about the Ron Howard?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he said he wants to connect with people through work. So
Yeah.
do you resonate with that? Like connecting with people through work is something that you crave, that you seek.
Totally. Or hobbies. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like my job, but
Right.
like through climbing is a huge way I connect to people, because what better way to prove how much you trust someone, or find out how much they trust you, than to tie a rope between the two of you and
Right.
dangle off the side of a cliff.
Right.
So that's I found like a huge way to connect to people is through not necessarily like the ops definition of play, but the more casual definition of play of just like just going out and having fun. But then also through work, like a lot of my really close friends are film composers and musicians that I've worked with over the years. Otherwise, yeah, and like you get to the FI through the TE.
Right. So since we're on the topic of TE, can you tell me like a big tidal wave that happened to you, like a big TE at the bottom tidal wave?
Oh gosh. Let me think for a second here. A big TE tidal wave. I was thinking of one earlier in the video, and now I lost it. Hang on. Yeah, wow, I'm really blanking on this. That's funny. TE time. Is there any have any follow-up question to like jog my brain?
I was gonna ask you about your sexual modality. So when do we go there first, and we can like come back to that?
Okay, yeah, maybe we'll come back to that one.
Yeah. Just need to jumpstart that brain.
Yeah. It's like I need to think about the right like situation, like I don't know, like school, work,
right,
like that.
So you are tester and visual. They finally confirmed that tester is kind of like smell, and
Oh really?
yeah. Which makes sense, right? Because like visuals eyes, kinesthetics touch, and auditory is ear. So that's like the last piece, and then taste and smell are kind of the same. cover your nose, you can't taste anything, right? So
Yeah.
and I mean, even Dave was telling a dark joke, like when he confirmed about it, he was saying like, you know, back in the days, they sent those testers people to try out the food, and if they got poisoned, like it's a
Yeah.
tester, the tester
Yeah,
that
like
wanted
the
to,
canary in the coal mine kind of thing.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
the tester
they're
that
the
got
first
poisoned.
ones to get poisoned.
Yeah,
A
so
warning for
um,
everybody else. Yeah. Yeah.
but and then I also noticed like a lot of testers are like foodies. They love to like try different food and stuff. So and then they like scented things like candles and all that stuff. So um can you talk about like and like at first when they explain tester, it's like experimentation, right? But it's like experimentation with like something that's scented, like smell or taste, right? So
Hmm.
do you personally like are you a foodie? Like do you like to try like different food or like different scent, and like are you someone that yeah.
No, actually, I've always been more of like a picky eater. I've always kind of had trouble expanding my box of foods. I've always just been like pretty oversensitive, not just with taste, but uh, with everything, Yeah, and like in terms of like just smell, like I've always felt like my nose is terrible. Just like I can't smell anything that people are talking about. Um, yeah, that's funny because I hadn't heard that yet. The tester is more like smell and taste. But yeah, I'm definitely oversensitive to taste and especially textures in my mouth. Like, ugh, I don't like a lot of things, and it's hard to and get where I want. But and just so sensitive. They had a video a few weeks ago. They were talking about how like the double masculines and the double feminines kind of share the characteristics of um, like that full body activation. That I really resonated with because I it's like you know how when a computer is running really hot and it's like doing a lot of work, like every part in the computer gets hot. Like that's how I feel in my whole nervous system. Like, when I'm working with my hands, it's like my whole arms light up, like my entire spine lights up, and it hurts. It's not it's not necessarily comfortable. I've always been sensitive like that to any sort of touch. It just feels like being electrocuted just to lightly touch something almost.
Right. What about the visual? Would you say you learned through visual?
Yeah. I definitely don't like learning without the visual. I think I learn best by doing, by maybe that's a decider thing, but uh if it's like a new climbing technique, seeing it is good, but trying it is amazing. But somebody just talking about it, no, that doesn't work for me.
Maybe your sexual modalities was mistyped. Maybe you're like MF, because it sounds like you're doing kinesthetic and audio. Like you make music too, right? So I'm like, like
My guess was double masculine, funny enough, because going back and looking at my videos, I don't look double masculine. I don't sound double masculine.
yeah,
But every time they talk about double masculine or kinesthetic, like it's like, oh yeah, that sounds like what I'm doing. But then I'm double feminine too. Like it I don't know. It's like they both kind of work.
yeah.
But
All
yeah,
right.
maybe you're right. Maybe audio. But even they said like it's hard to do modalities over video.
Yeah, they would have to see you in person, I think. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
challenging. Yeah. Um,
Watch me like tackle something and then decide.
yeah, if you like If you bounce off, you're clearly not like, um
Right.
all right, dude. Again, let's go back to the previous question. Maybe I'll
Oh,
reword. I'll reword it.
yeah. Try that.
Yeah.
I know I've got plenty. It's just, I guess it's the blast last, not wanting to talk.
Well, my last two questions for you is in regards to the tribe. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna reward what I asked earlier. So I asked you about tribe hate, but let's talk about the fear of being abandoned. So that's like the IP fear, is
Right.
abandonment. So why don't we talk
Right.
about that? Can you talk about your fear of abandonment as an IP?
Yeah. I mean, I like that's not how I would put it. Um, there's definitely a fear around like I guess my identity becoming permanent to the tribe in a way I don't want it to. And so I tend to, overmanage my values to maintain my identity. And I'm not like it even disrupts the play of like no, I'm not gonna break that masculine FI in order to please the tribe. I'm not gonna go along with things everybody else are doing um just for the sake of play, because I it's like I have to maintain this identity. um but I don't necessarily fear like getting kicked out of the tribe or anything like that.
Maybe that's more like an FE fear than a TE fear. Like it's
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I guess there's like a little bit of like um if my work reputation goes downhill, like it would be hard to get a job. Like no one would want to work with me, but that's just not something I'm concerned about like on a day-to-day basis, because
right.
I don't know. I feel like it's like if I can't if someone doesn't want to work with me, I'll just work with somebody else, I guess, just like the tribe isn't one like unified thing in the world. Like it's pocketed all over the place, and I've got like you know I've got my foot in a bunch of those different like tribe pockets. So I don't just have like the music community or just the climbing community. Like I've got all these different communities that I'm a part of. Um, so it's like, I don't know, if anything happens to one, I guess I have enough of a safety net, maybe.
Right. All right. Gotcha. All right. Well, Jesse, that's all the question I have for you today. So thanks for coming out, man, and sharing more about your story and about your life as this specific ISFP type.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Thanks for having me. Fun.
Yeah, for sure, dude. So take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, you too.